Bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs, we got bows, TKOs, yeah. Bows, TKOs.
Bows and TKOs. We are live, episode 125, coming at you from the Valley on this beautiful Wednesday evening. I'm your host, Shane Gillette, for this weekly MMA podcast. Videos on YouTube, and you can listen anywhere you get your podcasts. We have one hell of a show today. We have a little bit of MMA news, but we are recapping that massive UFC 322 card that happened in Madison Square Garden with all the legendary storylines and previewing this weekend's UFC Qatar fight. But before I jump into MMA, beautiful fall here in Arizona. We're talking like high 60s, had some rain and thunderstorms. You got to enjoy them while you have them here in the desert. It's been a very nice end of summer, early fall here in the Valley. And this weekend, I'm rocking my Grizz gear. It's Brawl of the Wild. I'm a University of Montana alum. The biggest game on the calendar. FCS ranked number 2, number 3, going for home field advantage in the playoffs right before the FCS playoffs in Missoula, Montana. And your boy's going to the game. My first game back since 2014 when the Montana Grizz played the North Dakota State Bison for the college football opener. It was actually the first primetime game, first game of the entire college football season that year. So it's been over 10 years since I've gone back to catch a game. Finally get to go hang out with some of friends, family, and catch the game. So I'm really excited about that. So we'll definitely talk a little bit about that and how that went next week. If Montana wins, if Montana doesn't win, I'll probably be a little bit sour about it. But massive showdown. So this Saturday, if you're watching college football, at noon Mountain Time, check out the Montana State game. You won't be disappointed. They always show up and show out. But let's talk MMA. We only have one fight that's been announced since last week. It seems like we're on the edge of a bunch of announcements going into 2026 for the new UFC Paramount deal. But we have Nikita Krylov taking on Modestas Bukauskas at UFC 324 in 2026. That is a great fight. The UFC announced that Yasmin Lucindo has been suspended for a failed drug test. Her manager had went and said that she thinks it's that it's a tainted substance. So we will see if that is the case or not. But big news for Yasmin Lucindo. And then the PFL has announced that they will have 4 events in 2026. The host cities will be Dubai, Madrid, Spain. They wanted to go to Spain before the UFC. Pittsburgh, and Chicago. So PFL announcing their locations. They have a card coming up December 13th that we'll preview after the holidays, and we will see what their cards look like in store for 2026. But let's talk what happened this weekend. UFC 322. I went 8-6 on my picks, although above 500, a little bit disappointed. I did pick a lot of the underdog veterans who've been there, done that, and the young cold-blooded killers stole the show. But for my picks, I am 763 wins, 385 losses, 10 no contests and draws. On the year now, 279 wins, 143 losses, 3 no contests and draws. To recap what happened at MSG, the prelims had some fun fights. For me, the prelims was all about Bo Nickal and the prelim headliner showing out like he did. Gregory RoboCop Rodrigues, I can't keep my eyes off this guy. He's insane. What Erin Blanchfield did. And then the 48-hour notice of Ethan Ewing, who made his UFC debut and shocked the world in the biggest arena in the States at Madison Square Garden. As you would expect, I'd say about the first or second fight on the prelims, the energy picked up, the excitement in the arena was through the roof. You expect to see that. And of course, the main card absolutely delivered. For those that love just pure violence, there was plenty of violence. And as I expected, utter championship domination. If you don't know, now you know. I try to tell y'all. but I'm going to recap this an 8 out of 10. I had previewed it a 9 out of 10, which is very high regards. But I'm a traditionalist. I like to see a little bit more action. I would have loved to see Michael Morales, Sean Brady, Carlos Prates, Leon Edwards go further into the fight, see some back and forth versus some of the quick finishes like what we saw in the BSD Beneil Dariush fight. Regardless, phenomenal pay-per-view. The second to last one in the ESPN era for the UFC. I'm giving it an 8 out of 10. There is 2 fights that we did not break down that I will quickly go over. We had Beisinger Susakarev with a round 3 knockout over Eric Mechanico. And although Susakayev trains with Khamzat Chimaev, he's a hyped up prospect. I do see a lot of holes in his game. I think Eric Mechanico took advantage of some of those early, but he did not act like a shark. His killer instinct, blood in the water. When he had Beisinger in bad moments, he did not take advantage of those. But Beisinger finally took advantage of the fight in the 3rd round. He said in his post-fight interview that his coach said no grappling this fight, only striking. So that definitely probably played some into that. But he still gets a round 3 finish. And then Ethan Ewing with the unanimous decision over Malcolm Wellmaker. Malcolm Wellmaker, probably one of the more hyped guys in the bantamweight division right now, and lives off that right hand. Ethan Ewing, who'd come from, I believe it was Uriah Faber's A1 Combat. He won a title on Saturday, got the short notice, turned around to fight Malcolm Wellmaker for his 3rd opponent. So you do got to give Malcolm some credit there. Went through 3 opponents in a month. But just shut down that right hand, took it to Malcolm, and really dominated this fight in that decision victory. I can't give this kid enough props. He had said this week on the Ariel Helwani MMA Hour that he had found out about it on like Tuesday or Wednesday after taking all day Monday, eating some food, treating himself after his A1 championship, and went straight into weight cutting mode to see if he could make the fight happen. He was able to make it in an agreed upon catch weight of 145. And boy, did he come out and show out the things that he had against him in this fight on the biggest stage in the world. The way he performed, again, I don't think this guy gets enough credit. He spoke like a high IQ guy. It seems like he's doing all the right things, so I'm interested to see his UFC career. Very tough night for Malcolm Wellmaker, but you got to be more dynamic in what you could bring to the table, and Ethan Ewing exposed that. But we're going to kick this off in the early prelims, a fight I got wrong right off the bat. We had Fatima Kline with a unanimous decision over Angela Hill. And I got to say, this fight really impressed me by Fatima. You know, she's only 25 years old. She's still young. She looked like a force to be reckoned with because she did exactly what I expected Angela to do. She pressured Angela right out the gates, was unleashing nice combinations, wasn't just throwing a jab out there, a 1-2. She was doing 3 to 4 strike combinations, following up with nice high kicks. I thought she mixed in her attacks really well. And, you know, Angela's 40. She jokes that her nickname should be Over the Hill. Angela Over the Hill. Because Angela clearly had the speed advantage in this fight. You know, her striking offense led to takedowns. She was able to strike herself into takedowns as well. And I thought coming in that Angela would be the more aggressive fighter, pressuring Fatima much like she did against Angela, and be able to strike herself into those takedowns, but that was not the case. I mean, Fatima had Angela on her back foot the entire fight. You know, Angela tried to come out hot right at the start of the fight, but Fatima was just too fast and too powerful for her. I mean, a complete 15-minute fight by Fatima. Obviously, training with Erin Blanchfield seems to be paying off. I'm really interested to see how she looks now that she's climbing into the rankings. Again, she's still very young. Obviously, Angela at 40 years old is slowing down. And at this point in her career, unless she could take her opponents down, I do think she will continue to struggle. Looking at the stats here, Angela landed 65 total strikes, 56 of them significant. Fatima landed 152 strikes, 115 of them significant. She had 4 takedowns in 7 attempts and 5 minutes and 16 seconds of control time. I mean, a complete 15-minute fight with the volume, the pressure, very, very impressed. But Fatima now extends her winning streak to 3. She is 3-1 in the UFC, and she enters the top 15 rankings at number 12. And Angela extends that losing streak to 2. She is 3-4 since 2023 and drops 2 spots in the rankings to number 14. So what's next? Well, I think Fatima and Jessica Andrade would be a good fight. It seems like Jessica is probably going to stay in the strawweight division. And for Angela, how about Jacqueline Amorim? Moving to the featherweight division, another fight I got wrong. We had Pat Sabatini with a unanimous decision over Chepe Mariscal. And, smart move by Pat. He resorted to his strengths, and that is grappling. Because I think he does respect what Chepe could bring with the striking. Again, these two had fought in the LFA years prior. But each round, Pat took Chepe down early and for the most part was able to keep him down. He didn't have much success landing damage when he had top control or going through submissions. And a lot of it is credit to Mariscal. He was tough. He was gritty. He really just fought his ass off to get back up and get out of multiple bad positions, including body locks, you name it. But although Pat had great positions, Chepe was able to land big strikes each round while the fight was standing, and he landed some pretty nasty damage. He had a brutal head kick at the end of round 1 that seemed to rock Pat. He had landed some nasty elbows that cut Pat up bad in round 2. His eye was leaking blood through the majority of the fight. And I honestly thought, although Pat had controlled most of the fight with the grappling, he didn't insert himself in the fight. I thought Chepe might still have a chance at the decision, but he didn't, as Pat won each round on the judges' scorecards because of his grappling ability and to put Chepe in bad positions, although he wasn't very dominant in them. Again, Chepe, the reason I like him, he is so tough and durable. He is really good everywhere, but Pat was able to make this his style of a fight and now has an opportunity to fight in the top 15. I was impressed with Chepe's fight pedigree because when he was in those bad positions, he never seemed to panic. He was calm in the bad positions. He did great with his scrambling ability, but Pat is such an elite grappler. When they were scrambling in 50-50 positions, he just continued to float on the hips and kept control. But a huge win for Pat. I think, again, he'll be fighting at the top 15 of the featherweight division. And for Chepe, although he's, 33 years old in the middle of his prime, I don't think he loses a ton of stock. He is going to have to string some wins together, though. Tough loss for him. Statistically, Pat landed 40 total strikes, only 12 of them significant. But he had 7 takedowns in 12 attempts. So for the most part, if he wanted it, he got it. And he had 10 minutes and 37 seconds of control time. But again, with that much control, that much, brutal positions that Chepe was in, he only landed 12 significant strikes, no submission attempts. Now, Chepe landed 48 total, so 8 more. Only 7 significant with the reversal and 48 seconds of control time. But there is a debate with the head kick in round 1, the elbows and the cut in rounds 2. Maybe it was a little bit closer, but the judges didn't see it that way. Now, Pat extends his winning streak to 3. He's 4-1 since 2023. And Chepe ends his 8-fight winning streak, starts a new losing streak. This is his first loss in the UFC. He's 5-1 since 2023. So where do they go next? Well, I think Pat and David Onama is the fight to make. And for Chepe, a showdown with Jose Delgado. That is a must-see fight. Chepe's in his prime. Delgado's proved himself in the division. Let's make that one happen. Moving on. We had Kyle Daukaus with a round 1 submission via Bravo choke over Gerald Meerschaert. And we have to be honest here. I picked Kyle solely on the fact that Gerald looks to be over the hill, although he's only in his later 30s. He has like 50-some odd pro fights. He is just too slow of a striker at this stage. He doesn't have great movement, and that was exactly the case in this fight. Kyle basically made slight work of the veteran, had a nice straight left, and he didn't do anything. Gerald didn't, but get knocked down and easily get his neck taken for the submission. Statistically, Kyle landed 8 total and significant strikes with the knockdown and the submission, and Gerald didn't land anything. Again, at this stage, I hope Gerald takes 1 or 2 more fights. He's got to be considering retirement, a brutal stretch for the veteran. But now, Kyle in his second stint with the UFC has a 6-fight winning streak, 2-0 in his UFC return, and Gerald extends his losing streak to 4. He is 2-6 since 2023. So what's next? I would love to see Kyle and Nickal Oleksiejczuk square off. Their last 2 wins were against GM3. I know Kyle has called on the Ariel Helwani show this week for a fight with Robert Whittaker. I don't think he's ready to get leapfrog that high. And for Gerald, how about somebody like Cedricus Dumas or Dusko Todorovic? If he's still with the UFC, I could see that being an exit fight. And that was all in the early prelims. Kicking off in the prelims, we had Erin Blanchfield with a round 2 submission via rear naked choke over Tracy Cortez. And Erin pretty much dominated this fight. She was leading with pressure, getting takedowns when she wanted them. I thought for the most part, Tracy seemed to be in kind of a defensive mode and was really never able to control the fight to make it her style. To give Tracy credit, the first round was competitive as they both stayed on their feet. I just thought Erin did a really good job with her movement, getting in and out of the pocket. And Tracy was kind of stone-footed. She would sit in the pocket and she would strike her combos. But when she did, she was out of distance, so not a lot of them landed. And Erin was constantly moving, circling in and out. She'd come back in with 1 to 2 strikes and kicks of her own. And at this point, I'm assuming Tracy didn't kick as much because she didn't want to get taken down. But round 2, surprisingly, Tracy went for a takedown of her own. She got high on the back in a sloppy position. Erin was able to reverse that, and Erin was able to control the fight from there. Erin didn't even really have a rear naked choke in a proper situation. She didn't have her hooks in. She was kind of side at the angle, but she was able to get Tracy to turn belly up because it was tight and get the submission. Erin is still a very young fighter. She's obviously improving from fight to fight, and she's already fought the best in the division. I expect her to fight at the top and be, right there for title contention here fairly soon. But Tracy's opportunities at the top of the division really haven't gone her way. Now she's probably going to be stuck at the bottom half of the top 15 or even deeper in the division. So definitely a tough night in the octagon for her. Statistically, Erin landed 65 total strikes, 52 of them significant. She got 2 takedowns in 3 attempts, a submission attempt, a reversal, and 2 minutes and 43 seconds of control time. And Tracy landed 50 total strikes, 46 of them significant. She went 1 for 3 in takedowns. But Erin now has a 2-fight winning streak. She's 4-1 since 2023. She does stay at number 4 in the rankings. And Tracy starts a new losing streak. She's an even 2-2 since 2023 and stays at number 8. But what's next? It's kind of tricky for Erin. She already fought Manon Fiorot and Rose Namajunas, so I think the fight that makes sense is Jasmine Jasdavicius. And for Tracy, how about Miranda Maverick? Moving on into the middleweight division, we had Gregory Rodrigues with the unanimous decision victory over Roman Kopylov. And I have to credit Gregory here. He's definitely evolved over the past few years because he's not starting uber aggressive in the first round and tiring himself out. He was able to pace himself and continue a solid pace, leading the striking, still pressuring Roman over the course of 15 minutes. Now, Roman is a very deadly kickboxer. He is a great counter striker, and RoboCop did a great job finding his own spots and not putting himself in danger. He did mix in some takedowns, I think, just to mix it up, but I am surprised that Roman actually got takedowns, even though Gregory was able to get back up. Roman did a great job with his movement. He was very bouncy, so Gregory couldn't just sit down and time his big power shots. But as the fight wore on, I thought Gregory wore down Roman with some good shots to the body. He had his nose pretty bloodied up as well. And then round 3, Roman actually landed a nice left, but he didn't really pounce on it. He didn't put himself in a position to attack Gregory after he was rocked, and I think that cost him in this fight. Gregory constantly was working the jab, his nice long lead left jab, and he kept coming and pressuring Roman throughout the end of the fight. But I was impressed with how Roman hung in there. I just didn't think he came forward enough because when he come forward with some combinations and had Gregory stepping backwards, he did land and had some success. I thought he needed to do more of that, but a great conservative effort by Gregory RoboCop. Again, a lot of the times he does a little bit too much trying to live off the power, and it costs him. But he was able to get a clean decision here as he won all 3 rounds on the judges' scorecards. And the stats speak for that. Roman landed 54 total strikes, 52 of them significant. He had 2 takedowns. And Gregory landed 91 total with 90 significant, so almost double the volume. And then he had a submission attempt and was 0 for 4 in takedown attempts. But Gregory extends that winning streak to 2. He is 5-2 since 2023, and he enters the top 15 at number 15. And Roman extends his losing streak to 2. He is 5-3 since 2023. This fight would feed families. Let's book Gregory Rodrigues and Paulo Costa. Sadly, I don't expect Costa to accept that fight, so I'm going to go with Gregory Rodrigues and Roman Dolidze. And for Roman, I'd like to see him fight Jung Park. Moving on to the prelim headliner, we had Bo Nickal with a round 3 knockout over Rodolfo Vieira. Performance of the night, 50 G's for Bo. And to be honest, all eyes were on Bo. I mean, a lot of people in the MMA world considered him to be fraud checked by RDR. But since he fought RDR, we've realized how good RDR is. Besides him gassing out in the last fight, supposedly he was sick or injured. But Bo had his most offensive striking fight in his UFC career, as he only had a minute and 28 seconds of control time, and he pretty much took it to a very dangerous Rodolfo Vieira and was able to defend any takedowns that Rodolfo had coming his way. I mean, Bo was in total control in this fight. He did a good job coming in and out of distance, and Rodolfo was kind of just stuck in his boxing high guard, kind of trying to walk Bo down and find timing on his shots, but he couldn't do it because Bo was constantly in his face. He landed a nice elbow that sliced him open up against the cage in round 1 as well. Bo did a really good job with his feints in this fight. He actually looked really comfortable standing. His jab was working the entire fight. I just thought Rodolfo wasn't offensive enough, but I think you have to give a lot of credit to Bo there with his movement and his feints. And to end the fight with that insane viral head kick knockout like he did was just icing on the cake. As after this highlight victory in MSG, he is right back to where he wants to be with that massive moment. And honestly, he posted a really cool Instagram where he showed all the videos of him trying to do a high kick and slipping, which he actually did that earlier in the fight. But he finally found the mark. It was insane. Big moment for Bo. He's right where he needs to be. And for Rodolfo, again, a very tough veteran. A loss here. He's probably going to be fighting at the back of the division for the rest of his UFC career. Statistically, Bo landed 94 total strikes, 77 of them significant. Again, for a 15-minute fight, much more than he's had in the UFC. He also had a submission attempt, a knockdown, was 2 for 3 in takedowns with that minute and 28 seconds of control time. And Rodolfo landed 31 total strikes, 24 of them significant. He was 0 for 6 in takedown attempts and had a minute of control time. So Bo starts a new winning streak. He's 5-1 since 2023. And Rodolfo starts a new losing streak. He is 3-2 since 2023. Where do they go next? That's the big question. I think whatever Bo does next will be very interesting. You know, he's still not in his fighting prime. He's still green with just a few pro fights. So I don't think we need to rush him into the deep waters like they did with him against RDR. So I'm going to say maybe someone like Shara Magomedov. He's spoken about potentially fighting him in the past. Or even the veteran Kelvin Gastelum. And for Rodolfo, he could take on DeJordan Santos. But what a moment to end the prelims and set us up for this massive pay-per-view that had carnage to start. And it started with Benoit Saint-Denis with a round 1 TKO over Beneil Dariush. Performance of the night, 50 G's for BSD. And this was a fight I got wrong. It played out a lot differently than I had expected. I wish we could have at least seen these two go for it for at least a full round. Because Benny started with a couple nasty leg kicks that were so on point, it actually swept BSD off his feet. And I thought he was going to be in serious trouble if his lead leg was going to be taken away because he lives off that power. but he was able to quickly get into a clinch, fire a couple uppercuts, and it was weird. It was just not even like a fully cocked back short left hook, but it landed right on the temple and it knocked Dariush down. I mean, he was face down, clearly out. Beneil kind of wanted to test the stoppage, but I think it was a good one because I don't think he even knew where he was at. He was clearly knocked out. I was just surprised that knocked Dariush out. But at the end of the day, Dariush has been finished a few times. You know, he is older. He's been fighting for a long time. I do think that, his chin is pretty much gone. But regardless, slight work in the office, a massive win for BSD, who in a year's time has really turned his UFC career around because he did have 2 losses last year in 2024. I do think his time having a new coach and really taking things seriously with the coaching and the team is paying dividends. I really do think Beneil Dariush's championships hopes are dead, as his last 3 fights have been via knockout. Again, with his chin being gone, I would only expect to see him maybe 1 or 2 more fights before retirement. But one thing I have to mention here, that if you didn't watch the pay-per-view, Benoit Denis is an ex-Special Forces fighter for France, or soldier, and he got to bring ex-military people to MSG from Dana White's blessing, guys that are like injured and handicapped to the fights. So really cool moment for him. You got to respect a guy who's been there and done those kinds of things. I mean, he is a savage. He is a Special Forces dude. But statistically, not a whole lot to speak of. Both fighters landed 3 total and significant strikes. Obviously, BSD had the knockdown. But now BSD is on a 3-fight winning streak, 6-2 since 2023. And he moves up a whopping 5 spots in the rankings to number 8. And Beneil starts a new losing streak. He is 1-3 since 2023. And he drops 3 spots to number 12. So what's next? Well, I think BSD and Justin Gaethje would be a lot of fun. I don't expect BSD to get the next title shot by any means, or Justin Gaethje. So I think that's a good violence fight for the fans. And Beneil will probably take a good amount of time off. So in his return, I'm going to say somebody like Michael Chandler or Paddy Pimblett. Moving on. I mean, we got to title this guy the fucking knockout artist in the UFC. So it's another fight I got wrong. Carlos Prates with a round 2 knockout over Leon Edwards. Performance of the night, 50 G's for the knockout king. I mean, Carlos called it. He said, I am going to make Leon resort to wrestling. And when he said that, I did not believe that. Because Leon is a very talented kickboxer. Obviously he's the former champion, but he was right. I mean, Leon was able to get a takedown and control most of the first round to win the first round on the scorecards. But for me, the best part of the fight was at the end of the round 1, Leon was in a body lock up on his back while Carlos was standing. And he was kind of touching him up with some short shots. And Carlos Prates was kind of smirking with him on his back before the bell rang. I thought it was hilarious. And the two were talking a lot of shit the whole fight. And I think that played into Carlos's favor. But for me, the fact that Leon wasn't able to control distance and pressure Carlos with the striking is a massive credit to Carlos, because early in the second, Leon came in too close and Carlos sat him down with a nice straight left and was able to get the finish in stunning fashion. I mean, that simple straight left knocked Leon up in the air off the canvas. His feet was off the canvas and his whole body had like whiplash. His eyes were rolled back. I mean, it was a devastating knockout. MSG was going absolutely insane. And although Carlos, brilliant performance in this fight, I think Michael Morales has done much more, and we'll talk about that here in a second, and is on such a crazy streak that I do think he is deserving of the title shot. From Leon Edwards' perspective, a lot of people have been saying that Leon doesn't seem like he cares. He's kind of washed. But I did think he showed up in amazing shape. He was just outdone by the knockout king in Carlos Prates. And I'm not sure at this point in Leon's career where he goes from here. I probably expect him to take a good amount of time off and just get the best fight that he can. You know? Carlos is like one of the probably the coolest guys on the UFC roster right now. The kids say aura farming. I mean, the guy is cooler than the other side of the pillow. He's always partying. He has his tats. He's smoking ciggies. I mean, he's the whole package. He's like a different anomaly than what we've seen in the UFC. I can't wait to see what's next for him. And although I picked Leon, I'm super excited for the guy. I mean, we'll talk about the next fight here in a second. I just thought Beneil Dariush, Leon Edwards, these are proven guys that have been there. I thought they were going to use their IQ and their experience to put these guys in bad spots. But the power and fighting can get the job done on any given night, and that's what happened at MSG. Now, statistically, Leon only landed 25 total strikes, 12 of them significant. He had 2 takedowns and 3 attempts with 3 minutes of control time. And Carlos landed 24 total strikes, 21 of them significant with the knockdown. So Carlos extends his winning streak to 2. He's 7-1 in the UFC since 2023. He moves up 4 spots in the rankings to number 5. And Leon extends his losing streak to 3. He's 2-3 since 2023, and he drops 5 spots to number 9. Now, I think Morales, again, is deserving of the title shot, so I don't think it'll be Carlos. So for me, what is the best fight you could put in front of Carlos? I think it's Prates and Shavkat Rakhmonov and his return next year for the Paramount deal with UFC. And then the winner of that could get the next title shot. And for Leon, again, that was a very brutal loss. He hasn't been super active, so I expect him to be out for quite a while and maybe fight someone like Gilbert Burns or Jeff Neal in his return. But moving on, the welterweight division showed out this evening. We had Michael Morales with a round 1 TKO over Sean Brady. Another performance of the night, 50 G's for Michael Morales. I kind of knew some weird shit was going to happen once Sean came out with the double knee sleeves and tights on both legs. Clearly he was prepared to wrestle, but I wasn't expecting a grappling heavy attack, I was expecting a grappling heavy attack from him, but Michael didn't give him a chance. I mean, Michael's very tall for the division, he's long for him, and he executed a great game plan. He had great movement, his striking was quick and powerful, and Sean really didn't see an opening unless he wanted to take a risk of getting hit. And I think Michael showed him what kind of power he has in his hands too early to do so. And Michael kind of came in with a low stance with his hips back, although he's still striking, so that Sean couldn't come in and just, get an easy takedown. But Sean couldn't take it as he got rocked with every big strike that Michael landed. I mean, he was a precise striker on the evening. It kind of seemed like Sean was just trying to survive in there. He never got his offense going, which is pretty wild to me because Sean has been such a dominant top-tier fighter in the welterweight class, and he is so confident. Michael's run right now is pretty fucking phenomenal. He's got knockouts over Neil Magny, Gilbert Burns, and now Sean Brady. I just feel like he's continuing to improve. He's not even in his fighting prime yet. He's left no doubt to anybody how talented of a skill set he has as a striker. And I think he's the biggest test yet in the welterweight division and is next up for the double champ in the welterweight division. Now, the only reason I don't think Michael fights for the title next is Islam kind of said he'd like to fight Kamaru, or maybe there's still that Ilya fight, is that he pushes one of those fights first. But Michael Morales, don't get it twisted, is the most complicated matchup and most deserving in the division. Not a lot to say from the stats. I mean, Sean only landed 8 total and significant strikes. He was 0 for 1 in takedown attempts. And Michael landed 24 total and significant with the knockdown. But Michael now still undefeated on a 19 fight winning streak. A pristine 8-0 in the UFC. He moves up 5 spots in the rankings to number 3. And Sean ends that 3-fight winning streak. He starts a new losing streak and drops 5 spots to number 7. But what's next? Again, I think Michael's up next for the title. And for Sean, I think he could take on the former champion, Jack Della Maddalena. MSG, end of the year, the end of the ESPN era. We have two of the most pure mixed martial artists in the world. And this woman, I think, embodies what MMA is. From Muay Thai to kickboxing, pro boxer, she's lived and breathed mixed martial arts. She's a perfect example for future generations. She does everything the right way, and I don't think she gets enough credit. And I feel like I was one of the few, which blew my mind. But we had Valentina Shevchenko with a unanimous decision over Zhang Weili. And again, I feel like Valentina is still not getting the props and praise that she deserves. These new era of fight fans just want to see knockouts and finishes. Valentina absolutely took it to Zhang Weili, and a lot of the grappling wasn't even Valentina's fault. Zhang just threw herself into those positions. I mean, Zhang, to me, very fun, very aggressive, knockout power. I don't even think she's in the greatest woman of all time conversation for me. And I feel like it was a slight to Valentina that they were saying she's the best women's martial artist active right now. And I do think that if she defeated Valentina, it was warranted. But I didn't think Zhang Weili was at that level, and it purely showed this evening. And I don't want to hear from people, well, Valentina had to wrestle her and hold her there. She's such a boring fighter. That was not the case. Watch the fight back. Now, in my opinion, Zhang Weili's weaknesses is how reckless she gets and how many openings she leaves. Rose Namajunas has exposed that, and to be honest, Zhang Weili hasn't fought the level of competition to expose that in her resume. Round one is a fantastic example. I mean, Valentina was tight in her stance, just waiting for Zhang to do something and find the opening, and Zhang came storming in, and Valentina took advantage. The knee she had up against the cage, I think knocked her down. I mean, this was a devastating knee. It had such power. And then in round two, she walked right into Valentina, and she got another takedown and landed in side control. Valentina, this fight, was so stoic and just stood her ground, and Zhang couldn't do anything. She is staying at distance. She couldn't find a way to close distance because every time she did, Valentina countered her. She was able to waste absolutely no energy and just wait for Zhang Weili to make a mistake. I mean, sure, if Zhang runs into me or gives me a kick that I can catch, I'm going to take her down, I flop right into side control, and I'm going to try to tire her out. I'm going to look for those submission opportunities or land damage, and that's exactly what Valentina did. Although Valentina wasn't logged for any submission attempts, she did land a lot of ground and pound throughout the fight and had top control. Valentina did look like the much bigger fighter. I do think Zhang Weili needs to stay at the strawweight division. I honestly think, though, that Manon Fiorot would beat Zhang Weili. I think Manon Fiorot is a real problem, a big flyweight, and I was trying to say that coming in, that if Valentina could do Manon like she did, she is going to have a heyday with Zhang Weili. I try to tell y'all. Now, I get it. I like Zhang Weili. She's a fan favorite. She has a fun style, but her best win was against Joanna Jędrzejczyk, who also leaves a lot of openings, and Tatiana Suarez. Valentina's resume is light years above that, and Amanda Nunes as well. So again, she wasn't GOAT material to me. But the big storyline for me in this fight was Valentina's kicks. I mean, she was so fast, and I think that played a huge part of why Zhang struggled to close distance. She was whipping those ins and landing devastating body blows, and I think Zhang Weili felt that, and she didn't want to eat more of those trying to close distance, so she'd pounce in, be way too far off on her combos, and then Zhang would rip a body shot. So I do think that played a part because those body kicks were absolutely nasty. And let's talk about round three. I mean, the entire round was standing, and Zhang just sat there kind of firing and whiffing and couldn't find anything with the distance. And then with about 2 minutes left, she kicked while into closer range. Valentina caught it, got another easy takedown. And then by round four, Zhang Weili, you could see her body language. I felt like she was defeated because she couldn't get anything going offensively. Yes, Valentina took her down, had plenty of control time, but Zhang walked into those. Valentina took what was given. That's what you would do if you're one of the best martial artists of all time. But don't get it twisted. This was utter domination. Put some respect on Valentina's name. Now, statistically, Valentina landed 137 strikes, 41 of them significant. She had 5 takedowns in 6 attempts and 13 minutes and 24 seconds of control time. So controlled almost 3 entire rounds. And Zhang landed 80 total, but only 32 of them significant. She was 0 for 1 in takedowns with 46 seconds of control time. Now, Valentina extends that winning streak to 3. She is 3-1-1 since 2023. And Zhang ends her 5-fight winning streak. She starts a new losing streak. And what's next? In the post-fight interview, Zhang said she wants to take some time to decide what division she goes to. I could promise you she's going to go back to the strawweight division and fight Mackenzie Dern. That's a very winnable fight for her. And I do think the clear next contender for Valentina is Natalia Silva, who is sitting ringside as well. You got to respect the greatness. If you're new to the UFC since COVID or even 2020, go on UFC Fight Pass, ESPN Plus, watch Valentina. She could do anything, anywhere. She has the speed, she has the power, and she completely dominated Zhang Weili. But we want to talk about domination. We got and new a double champion in the UFC, Islam Makhachev, with a unanimous decision over Della Maddalena. And I kept asking myself as well, I am pretty active on X in the MMA world. I was seeing so many people pick Zhang Weili and Della Maddalena. I'm like, am I missing something here? Hell no, I ain't. Just because people are on social media and have a following doesn't mean they know shit. Maybe they post a lot, they do some weird memes, they get viral. I'm not one of those guys. I'm a traditionalist. I come from journalism. I try to do things the right way, but I watch the fights. I've been a fan for a long time. I've spoken about my history before. If you know, you know. I was certain Islam Makhachev was going to get the job done. But I will say, Jack looked absolutely fucking shredded in this fight. I mean, in weigh-ins, a dehydrated Islam, Jack looked way bigger. Jack still looked more shredded in the fight, but Islam was big. I mean, Islam weighed at 189.4 pounds on fight night. I want to know what Jack weighed because he came in and he came prepared. But again, you want to talk about domination? I think this was a more dominant victory than what Valentina did. Islam made his presence felt early with vicious calf kicks that had Jack's lead leg beaten up. And I don't know. Things were really weird in this fight because the biggest shots that were landed were body strikes and the calf kick from Islam. But Jack, his body language was completely off. I want to say about mid-round 3. He was grimacing and clearly in pain and looked like he was about to cry. I mean, most fighters, if you're in a calf kick pain, you try to hide it. And then when you're about to start the new round, you're eye to eye to your opponent, you don't wear it. He was looking like he was about to cry, and Islam was able to see that. So I almost I'm curious if he broke a rib or something from one of those body shots, because every time he was curled up and Islam was kind of smashing him in half guard, he looked like he was in like a 9 out of 10 pain. Maybe that's from a calf kick. I haven't been calf kicked, but I've seen a ton of guys get brutally smashed in the calf kick where they can't even stand, and they're not grimacing in pain like that. And DC and Joe talked about it for most of the fight because there wasn't much more to talk about of him doing that. And they were kind of on the same level of me as where is that coming from? At the end of the day, Islam got every takedown he wanted. It defeated and took the soul and the energy out of Jack, and that lead leg was beaten up. But I have never seen a fighter act like that. Jack is a very tough guy, so it's shocking to me. But the biggest takeaway is there's levels to the fight game, and Islam didn't get touched. I mean, it was insane. I think he's right there for the greatest all time. I think he is better than Khabib Nurmagomedov. The only flack you could give is he didn't get a finish in this fight. He kept trying to go for the darts. Jack was well prepared, working with Alexander Volkov and Craig Jones. But even in the corner, Jack's team said we can't be in half guard situations. We got to find a way into full guard and everything. Islam was able to do what he wanted. At the end of the day, Islam put a fat stamp on his legacy. And man, the future's about to be fun. The opportunities for title defenses in the welterweight division for Islam, the class is absolutely stacked. I mean, in this night, we saw Leon Edwards, Carlos Prates, Sean Brady, Michael Morales. This weekend, we have Bilal Muhammad, Ian Gary. 2 or 3 wins in the welterweight division. I think Islam's resume is going to be just as good, if not better, than anybody out there. Breaking down the stats, Islam landed 140 total strikes, 30 of them significant. He had 4 takedowns with 19 minutes and 10 seconds of control time, so almost 4 out of the 5 rounds. And Jack only landed 30 total and 18 significant strikes. It's a 5-round fight, less, 5, 10, 15, 20, like 6 strikes around. It's pretty insane. And he was 0 for 1 in takedowns. But Islam now is on a 16-fight winning streak, 5-0 since 2023. Jack ends that 18-fight winning streak, starts a new losing streak. He is 5-1 since 2023, and he is now the number 1 contender. So what's next? Again, Islam's talking about Kamaru Usman. I get it. Better resume, legacy, probably easier fight. But you're in the new weight class. It's a jam-packed weight class. It's already backed up, so let's get it moving. Take on Michael Morales. And for Jack, he could fight Sean Brady. But yeah, UFC 322, amazing card. I mean, if you were a purist like myself, Islam and Valentina, this was absolute history. The young bloods, right? I thought the veterans were going to teach them a thing or two. Michael Morales is an absolute problem. Carlos Prates, absolute problem. Benoit Denis doing it. Nickal, guess who's back? We got Gregory Rodrigues in the top 15 now. Erin Blanchfield shows she's a contender. Kyle Daukaus, a great moment. Pat Sabatini is going to be fighting in the top 15. And Fatima Kline is going to be a problem. But that sets us up for early Saturday action overseas. This Saturday we got UFC Qatar. I will not be watching because I'll be in Montana for the game. It's all on ESPN Plus. I'll probably watch it back on Sunday. But we got the prelims at 7 a.m. Pacific. Get up, get your Irish coffee going, get your screwdrivers, celebrate with me. Hit me up on Instagram, Gillette36, Gillette55 on Twitter, or Bows and TKOs. The main card at 10 p.m. Pacific, it will all be on ESPN Plus. To preview this card, I would say the prelims are light, but I am really pumped about the Takir Ulanbekov and Horiguchi fight. I did find out a couple hours ago that is moved to the main card, deservingly so. And the main card for a fight night is stacked. I mean, there is some major fights on this card that should deliver. Qatar is in for a treat. I am previewing this a 7 out of 10. Some good fights we will not break down. We got Nicholas Dalby taking on one championship alum, Saigid Izagakmiev. That's quite the name. And then Dana White Contender Series alum, Narulo Aliyev taking on Octagon alum, Shem Rock. But we're going to kick this off in the prelims. We have Alexandre El Conquistador Topuria, 29 years old with a 6-1 record, taking on Bekzat the Turin Warrior Almakan, 28 years old with a 12-2 record. Now this fight is between 2 newer faces to the UFC. You know, they're about to hit their primes at 29 and 28 years old. And a win here would put them right in the mix of things in a very deep bantamweight division. And although Alexandre has more hype because of his brother Ilya, he has looked solid and I think is better everywhere. Breaking this down, Alexandre is 2-0 in the UFC. He started as a pro in 2015, but then had 6 years off before he was consistently fighting in 2021. 3 of his 6 wins are via knockout, 2 via submission, so 5 of his 6 wins are via finish, and his 1 loss is via knockout. Now, Bekzat has an orthodox stance. He's an Octagon and UAE Warriors alum. He's on a 1-fight winning streak, 4-1 since 2023, and 10 of his 12 wins are via knockout. Now, Bekzat is the most tough fighter and well-rounded fighter that Alexandre has fought. You know, he had a quick finish against a talented Brad Katona back in May. But Alexandre has showcased the ability to get takedowns, do a good job at defending takedowns, and he has precise striking much like his brother Ilya. You know, it does help that he's coaching and game planning for Ilya. So I think that time film studying and strategy sessions as a coach, I think that'll help him as a fighter. But his top priority will be being defensively sound and get takedowns of his own, because Bekzat provides a lot of chaos and power, so he has to be careful. But I am taking Alexandre Topuria. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Moving on. Again, this is moved into the main card. Very thankful for that. We have Tagir Ulanbekov, 34 years old with a 17-2 record, and the number 12 next to his name, taking on Kyoji Horiguchi, 35 years old with an 18-2 record. Now, it's a pretty wild sight here that we're getting two vets in a showdown in the flyweight division at the end of their primes at 34 and 35. You know, Kyoji was with the UFC back from 2013 to 2016. He actually challenged Demetrius Johnson for a title, and it was his only UFC loss. He then fought for Rizin, even fought for Bellator. He has wins over Kai Asakura. He went 1-1 with him. He defeated Kai for the Rizin Bantamweight Championship, so he moved up to Bantamweight. And then he went 1-1, his last win against Sergio Pettis, who he won via unanimous decision. He defeated Makoto Takashi for the Rizin Flyweight Championship. And he actually defeated Manel Kopp for the Rizin Bantamweight Champion Grand Prix semifinals via a round 3 submission back in 2017. So, you know, it's not like he left the UFC facing a bunch of tin cans. He was facing quality competition. Kyoji actually hasn't lost since April of 22, and that was against Patchy Mix via unanimous decision for the Bellator Bantamweight World Grand Prix. But breaking this fight down, Tagir has a Sambo style. He trains with Khabib out of Eagles MMA. He won gold in the 2014 World Combat Sambo Championships. He's a Fight Nights Global alum and former champion. He's on a 4-fight winning streak. 8 of his 17 wins are via submission, and he does have a 4-inch reach advantage. Now, Kyoji has a kickboxing and Shotokan karate style. He trains out of American Top Team. He has a 2nd-degree black belt in Shotokan. He's a Rizin alum and former flyweight champ with 1 successful title defense and bantamweight champion 2 separate times. He's a Bellator alum and former bantamweight champ. He's on a 5-fight winning streak with a no contest, and 15 of his 34 wins are via knockout. Now, I went and watched back some of Kyoji's fights in Rizin and Bellator because it's been a long time since he's been with the UFC. And I'm back and forth on this fight. Tagir clearly lives off his grappling. He's a decent striker at best, but Kyoji has a very wide stance. He's bouncy in and out, almost like a lightweight version of Michael Venom Page. I think that's going to be a problem from Tagir to find takedown opportunities. Now, Kyoji has pretty solid grappling as well, but I think his striking is a lot higher level, and I think that if he does get taken down, he gets back up and his striking pays dividends, and he tires Tagir out later in the fight if it goes that far, because we have seen Tagir kind of gas out as the fight goes on. The current champion, potentially the flyweight GOAT, Alexandre Pantoja, has talked about training with Kyoji and the thought of fighting for him for legacy. That's how highly he thinks of Kyoji. And Kyoji's only 35. Again, I think he's just too sprawly, too powerful, and too fast for Tagir. I think this is a close, evenly contested fight, but it's all going to come down to if Ulanbekov can get takedowns and hold Horiguchi there. And I'm not betting on that. For that reason, I'm taking Kyoji Horiguchi, but I'm avoiding this on any parlays. I could see the grappler come out here. But moving on, this is in the main card. I think this actually got moved to the prelims for the Horiguchi fight. We have Asu Zulfikar Almabayev, 31 years old with a 22-3 record and the number 9 next to his name, taking on Alex Perez. 33 years old with a 25-9 record and the number 8 next to his name. To be honest, the big concern with me anytime we see Alex Perez these days is he actually going to make weight and make the fight? You know, he's already in Qatar, fingers crossed. But this is a big-time matchup between two men in their primes who are looking to stay relevant in the rankings in the flyweight division. I mean, Alex only has one win since 2014, but he has fought the best fighters in the division. Inasu impressed me in his last fight versus the up-and-coming Jose Ochoa, and will look to continue his improvement. I mean, Alex hasn't fought in over a year after injuring his knee against Tatsuro Taira, so it really is a wild card at this point. Breaking it down, Asu has an orthodox stance. He's a Fight Nights Global, M1, and Brave alum. He's on a one-fight winning streak and is 5-1 since 2023. 9 of his 22 wins are via knockout. 9 of his 22 wins are via submission. 2 of his 3 losses are via knockout. Now, Alex is a King of the Cage, Cage Fury, RFA, and Contender Series alum. He's on a one-fight losing streak and is 3-4 since 2020. 7 of his 25 wins are via submission, 6 via knockout, so 13 of his 25 wins via submission, and 5 of his 9 losses are also via submission. Now, Alex is hard to pin down. Where is he at in his career? Well, he's still in the middle of his prime. He is a well-rounded fighter, but he has not been active, and you never know what version of Alex you're going to get. Now, Asu's strength is with his wrestling, but he has improved in the striking. Alex is going to be aggressive and look to pressure Asu and look for big shots, but Asu hasn't been knocked out in the UFC. He has been submitted, so maybe he rocks him and finds a submission. But I'm going to take Asu Almabayev, and I'm avoiding this on any parlays where possible. Moving on, we have Sergey the Polar Bear Spivak. 30 years old with a 17-6 record and the number 7 next to his name, taking on Shamil Gaziev. 35 years old with a 14-1 record and the number 11 next to his name. Now, both of these men are in their primes at 30 and 35, and they're looking to make a big splash to stay in the top 10 of the heavyweight division. I think Sergey has impressed me. He seems like a quality and well-rounded heavyweight. He was able to stand in there and strike with Waldo Cortez, who I think is a more skilled and quick striker than Shamil. Shamil just lives off power. But although Sergey lost that fight, I actually thought he won it. And Shamil fights with his hands down low as a striker, and I think the high kicks that Sergey brings, he might be able to catch him. And honestly, Shamil, he's new to the top of the heavyweight division, and he doesn't have a quality win yet. He beat Thomas Peterson in a decision against Dontel Mays, where he was actually outstruck and he had to resort to grappling. I actually feel like Spivak has a grappling advantage. Clearly Shamil probably has the power advantage, but he is a power-dependent striker and okay with grappling. I don't think Shamil's going to be able to take Spivak down. I think if anyone gets the takedowns, it's Spivak, and he's going to have much better cardio, as we've seen Shamil gas out pretty easily. But breaking this down, Sergey has an orthodox stance. He's an Eagles FC alum. He has the highest takedown accuracy percentage in UFC heavyweight division history at 65.1%. He's on a 2-fight losing streak and is 2-3 since 2023. 8 of his 17 wins are via submission, 7 via knockout, so 15 of his 17 wins via finish. And 4 of his 6 losses are via knockout. Now, Shamil is a Brave and Contender Series alum. He's on a 2-fight winning streak, 4-1 in the UFC, and 9 of his 14 wins are via knockout. I really do think Shamil lives off a knockout. Unless he could find a way to get a takedown and lay on Spivak, because he is a lot bigger heavyweight. But Sergey gets him taken down early. I feel like the submission will be there, and I think he's going to be able to completely exhaust Shamil as well. I do think Sergey has that cardio advantage, and it will only be bad if Shamil somehow gets a takedown and lays on him early, but I am not expecting that at all. Again, Shamil fights with his hands down. I think that's going to cost him. For that reason, I'm taking let's look. I think he's the underdog. So for that reason, I'm taking the underdog. The dog's coming to eat. I'm taking Sergey Spivak, but I'm avoiding him on any parlay. Kyoji Horiguchi is also an underdog, surprisingly. So, hey, we got a couple underdogs going. I know that cost me last week, but I'm feeling good about it. Speaking of underdogs, we have Jack, the Joker Hermanson, 37 years old with a 24-9 record, taking on Miktabik Oralbai, 27 years old with a 14-2-1 record. Now, this is a very interesting stage of Jack's career because at 37 years old, let's see how old of a 37 he is. He's about to be 38. Well, his birthday's in June, so pretty young, 37 years old. He is moving down to the welterweight division. I am more intrigued about how this weight cut goes. I will be tuning in to see how he looks on the scale. But with that being said, Miktabik is still a very young and fairly green fighter in the UFC at 27. He is taking a jump up in competition, and Jack is well-rounded. He's been there, and he's done that in the UFC. I mean, Oralbai is a very grappling-heavy dependent fighter. He does have decent and improved striking, but he was outdone by Mantush Renbeki about a year ago and was even taken down by him a few times. You know, Jack has had a wild few years, but shows that he is still fighting at a very high level. He has wins over the likes of Joe Pyfer and Chris Curtis, and I think they are much better than what Miktabik Oralbai is today at 27. But breaking this down, Jack has an orthodox stance. He has a black belt in BJJ. He's a Cage Warriors alum and former champ with 2 successful title defenses. He's also a Bellator alum. He has the most significant body strikes landed in a UFC middleweight bout with 64 against Sean Strickland. He has the most total strikes attempted in a middleweight bout with 496 against Ronaldo Souza. He's on a 1-fight losing streak and is 2-3 since 2022. 11 of his 24 wins are via knockout, 6 via submission, so 17 of his 24 wins via finish, and 4 of his 9 losses are via knockout. He does have a 3.5-inch reach advantage and a 7.5-inch leg reach advantage. Now, Miktabik trains out of Team Alpha Bell. He's an LFA alum. He's on a 1-fight winning streak and is 3-1 in the UFC. 6 of his 14 wins are via knockout, 6 via submission, so 12 of his 14 wins via finish. Now, if Miktabik can be aggressive and outdo Jack physically with his grappling, he will have success, but I don't expect that to happen. I think Jack is going to be constantly moving and mixing in takedowns of his own. You know, Jack brings a lot more volume and mix with his striking attack than Oralbai does. Jack in his fight against Joe Pyfer was able to defend all 6 of his takedown attempts, play defense, and pour it on in the back half of the fight. Jack even took down Joe Pyfer. He landed 188 out of 237 strikes thrown. So I do think the longer this fight goes, the more tired the Oralbai is going to be, and I think it will favor Jack in the back half. He is a veteran with a ton of octagon time and may look really good at the lower weight class. And I think the odds are a slap in the face. Jack Hermanson is at plus 200 or greater underdog. That is crazy to me. But I am taking the underdog. The dog's coming to eat. I'm actually putting Jack on a parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. You know, a pick like this cost me taking a veteran over the young up-and-comers, but there's the Miktabik Oralbais of the world, and then the Michael Morales and better, and I think that's just on a way different stage. Moving on, we got Volkan No Time Ozdemir, 36 years old with a 20-8 record and the number 9 next to his name, taking on Alonzo Atomic Menefield, 38 years old with a 17-5-1 record and the number 14 next to his name. Now, both of these men are in the back nine of their careers, but are still having success. Both men are strikers first and don't rely on their wrestling and grappling. Alonzo has won some decisions, but doesn't get into flow with combos and volume like Volkan does. Both men, of course, in the light heavyweight division have serious power. That's life in the division. But unless Alonzo can get a finish, it would be hard for me to think that he can win a decision. Breaking this down, Volkan has a kickboxing style. He has an orthodox stance. He trains out of Kill Cliff FC. He was the 2017 Breakout Fighter of the Year. He's a Bellator alum. He's on a one-fight losing streak and has 2-1 since 2023. And 13 of his 20 wins are via knockout. Now, Alonzo trains out of Fortis MMA. He's a Bellator, RFA, LFA, and Contender Series two-time alum. He's on a two-fight winning streak and has 4-2-1 since 2023. 10 of his 17 wins are via knockout. 3 of his 5 losses are also via knockout. So to knock out or be knocked out. Now, anything can happen with a striking battle in the light heavyweight and heavyweight divisions, but I think Volkan has better kickboxing skills all around. I do think Alonzo may need to make this fight dirty, finding ways to get in the clinch, up against the cage, and maybe even attempt some takedowns. But I do think Volkan's going to be better. For that reason, I am taking Ozdemir. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. Moving on. Again, the welterweight division has drama. Well, in this fight, we get Ian, the future Machado Gary, 28 years old with a 16-1 record and the number 6 next to his name, taking on Belal, remember the name Muhammad, 37 years old with a 24-4 record and the number 1 next to his name. Now, this is very much a clash of styles fight. I think Belal, after his loss to JDM, is going to resort back to what works, and that is his smothering grappling style and putting a pace on his opponents. Ian's very tricky for the division because of his length and size. He has good movement and is a great kickboxer. So it's not going to be easy for Belal to take him down. Training with Shootbox, I feel like Ian's been really focused on the grappling, and he has offensive takedown ability of his own. Leon was actually able to take down Belal Muhammad in that title fight. I don't see a reason why Ian couldn't as well. Again, I think Ian has a clear kickboxing advantage and speed advantage, but I expect Belal to be able to hang. Belal's tried to show off his world-class boxing. It's very untechnical and sloppy, but both men do have great cardio, so I expect 5 hard-fought rounds in this fight. 3. This is only a 3-round fight, which I think also probably favors Ian Gary. But breaking it down, Ian trains out of Shootbox Diego Lima. He has a black belt in judo. He's a Cage Warriors alum and former champion. He's on a 1-fight winning streak and is 6-1 since 2023. 7 of his 16 wins are via knockout, and he has a 2.5-inch reach advantage. Now, Belal has a wrestling style. He trains out of Valley Flow Striking with a brown belt in BJJ. He's a Bellator and Titan FC alum and former champ. He's the former welterweight champion. He's the first UFC champion of Palestinian descent. He's tied with Kamaru Usman for the most unanimous decision wins in UFC welterweight history with 11. He's tied with GSP for second most decision wins in UFC welterweight history with 11. He's on a 1-fight losing streak and is 2-1 since 2023. Now, credit to Belal. He's defeated strikers like Leon and Gilbert Burns of late. But Ian's different because of his length and his newly well-rounded attack with his own offensive wrestling. I think Belal is going to have to rely on his offensive wrestling early, and he can't depend on his striking or he will get caught, as Ian is a great counter striker, and put himself in danger like he did in the JDM fight. And again, it's only a 3-round fight. I've been very back and forth on this. I could see Belal taking Ian down and grappling his way to victory, but I think Ian does enough while it's on his feet, has movement, maybe even tries takedowns of his own. So I've swayed to Ian Gary. So I am taking Ian Gary, but I'm not putting this on parlays. There's just a lot of opportunity for Belal to win here. But let's talk about this main event. We get Arman Akalekets Sarukian, 29 years old with a 22-3 record and the number 2 next to his name, taking on Dan the Hangman Hooker, 35 years old with a 24-12 record and the number 7 next to his name. Much like the main event, or the co-main, this is a big Clash of Styles showdown. I think Arman is probably even more well-rounded than Belal, and he's not even in his prime yet at 29 years old. You know, Dan is on a great run. He even has a win over a grappling heavy fighter like Mateusz Gamrot, and that was last year. But Dan is going to have to keep distance and pick at Arman while he's continuing to move to avoid his takedown attempts. I do think the winner of this fight is ripe for a title shot, so there is a ton on the line, and it's probably Dan's last attempt to stay in the top 5 of the very talented lightweight division. Breaking it down, Arman has an orthodox stance. He trains out of American Top Team. He's on a 4-fight winning streak. He even has submission grappling wins over Benson Henderson and Patricky Pitbull. 9 of his 22 wins are via knockout, 5 via submission, so 14 of his 22 wins via finish. Now, Dan has a kickboxing style. He has an orthodox stance. He trains out of City Kickboxing. He has a black belt in BJJ. He's a Legends FC and King of the Ring alum. He's on a 3-fight winning streak. 11 of his 24 wins are via knockout, 7 via submission, so 18 of his 24 wins via finish. And he has a 2.5-inch reach advantage and a 3-inch leg reach advantage. Now, it's pretty wild that Arman doesn't have a submission victory in the UFC. It's all been via TKO or knockout. But I think Arman is one of the more pure, well-rounded fighters in all of the UFC. And although Dan is a dangerous striker, I think Arman finds a way to close distance smartly and gets enough takedowns to control Dan there. There is an opportunity for Dan to knock him out, much like we saw Carlos Prates and Michael Morales against Sean Brady. But this guy is younger and in his prime, and he's out for blood. For that reason, I'm taking Arman Sarukian. We are putting him on that parlay. We marking that ish down, and we getting that bread. UFC Qatar, early action, Arman Sarukian, Ian Gary, Jack Hermanson going down, Sergey Spivak, Shamil Gaziev, massive fights, Asu and Alex Perez, the return of Kyoji Horiguchi in the flyweight division. It is a great fight night card. And we're getting to the end of the year. We have a week off for Thanksgiving and then 2 cards left in the year with another absolutely massive pay-per-view, UFC 323 in Las Vegas. 2 more titles on the line as we get Merab Dvalishvili looking for his 4th title defense this year in the rematch against Petr Yan. And then we get Alexandre Pantoja taking on Joshua Van. That's episode 125. I'm your host, Shane Gillette. See you next week.